And it's official. Kamala Harris has chosen Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. And oh boy, everyone's calling this a mistake. You've got liberals being like, what are you thinking? You need to win Pennsylvania. The right is saying, what are you thinking? You need to win Pennsylvania. Well, here's the issue. I don't know if y'all are aware of this. Democrats at the party level are. Well, Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania is a Jew. And for that reason, they're not going to put him on the ticket. And that's crazy. Crazy to think that that was disqualifying. In fact, Shapiro basically apologized for his pro-Israel views from 20 some odd years ago. Progressives wrote a letter saying his stance on Israel was no good. You can't have this guy on the ticket. And they decided to go with Tim Walz, who is as radical or more radical than Kamala Harris. Now, I will stress for all of my friends, Kamala Harris is not the most liberal member of Congress. She's the most uncompromising. And that's arguably worse, but it's different. A lot of people are saying, on her voting record, she's the most liberal. But what does that mean? This lady's not further left than Bernie Sanders. The reality was she's just never compromised, never sought any deals. Bernie Sanders would actually go to Republicans and say, OK, I'll vote for your thing if you vote for mine, giving him a more mixed bag, political alignment. But let's be real. Bernie Sanders is as far left as he could possibly be in Congress. Kamala Harris is just, like a party shill of nothing. She has no campaign policies. She's been installed and not a single person voted for her. She couldn't even get a single delegate in the primaries back 5 years ago. So come on. What is this? So we'll talk about that. Then we've got this one's funny. Aiden Ross, big Gen Z live streamer, 500,000 viewers on his stream with Donald Trump, gifts him a Cybertruck. The New York Times and a bunch of other corporate outlets are saying he broke the law. I mean, maybe that's the angle they wanted to play. Get Gen Z super excited about Donald Trump being given a car and then accuse your favorite streamer of campaign finance violations. I don't know. There's something interesting there. So we'll talk about that one. Joe Rogan, his new comedy special came out over the weekend, and now we're seeing the internet just lose their minds. The left is furious. MSNBC is like, so we'll talk about that one. And then we got a crazy story. Valentina Gomez, you know her. We were on the show recently. Her brother got fired because of her campaign. So in Jersey City, her brother worked there. The mayor told him he had to issue a statement denouncing his sister, basically. And he was like, OK, yeah, please. And then the mayor fired him anyway. So this could be very seriously illegal. So we'll talk about all that, my friends. Smash the like button. 1 like equals 1. Fight, fight, fight. Become a member over at Timcast.com. Click join us to support our work directly. My friends, we are in a fake news hellscape every day. If you like the show that I do in the morning, as well as Timcast IRL, and you want to see more of it because you think we cut through the BS, we try, then become a member to join us, because it is members that make all of this possible. But also head over to castbrew.com, buy Cast Brew coffee. It's good coffee. Buying Cast Brew supports our endeavors. We're trying to set up physical locations so we can have more events. Our goal, my dream, we'll have 1,000 locations across the country in the physical world where people can get access to, let's just call it the new mainstream media. I want you to imagine this. You walk in for a cup of coffee. There's a shopping center with like a Target and a movie theater, and there's a Cast Brew coffee. When you walk in to buy your coffee, there's a TV on the wall, and guess what it's playing? Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Timcast. You may not be a fan of all of those guys, but the point is to get alternate voices off the mainstream. Why? You're going to get the truth. You may not like their opinions, but you know that we're not going to lie to you. And so that's the goal there. But become a member at Timcast.com, and also send in your super chats. The way this morning show works, because we're doing a new thing, is I'm going to read through our first segment, about a half an hour, and then we're going to read your commentary and super chats before we jump to the next segment and get you guys involved in the show, because you can tell me I'm wrong, and I'll read your chats and we'll add your context, and this makes the show much more robust. So if you guys who are watching think I get something wrong or I miss something or there's something in the news that people need to hear about, you super chat those in. We read through them, add them to the stories. With all of that being said, follow me on X at Timcast. And then let's jump into the first story. Ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris picks Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for VP running mate. I got to say, I didn't see this coming. Everybody knows she needs to win PA, and that could be very damaging for Donald Trump. But I got to say, while Kamala Harris is currently winning, and she is, ladies and gentlemen, here you go, 2024 general election RCP average has Kamala Harris winning all of the latest polls, currently ahead in aggregate by 0.2. But if you remove some of the earlier polls from when she was first announced, she's got a strong lead. Now, a lot of people, of course, say those polls are fake. Believe whatever you want to believe. If you do not get out there, if you do not campaign, if you don't sign, if you don't help voter registration, if you're not voting, Kamala Harris is going to win. Look, there's a reason we call it a cult. You don't need campaign positions when you're in a cult. Kamala Harris has none because it's a cult. Now, some people believe the choice of Tim Walz as VP proves that this is just a throwaway campaign, and that may be. I am actually leaning to that position that the general idea Democrats have is we don't want to waste any real talent. So let's just prepare our losses. I mean, we'll see. I love this. I chose the Daily Beast on purpose because they're far left wingnuts. The Democratic presidential nominee has chosen the dark horse and Minnesota governor. Now, Minnesota is already blue. You don't need this guy to help you win. So what is the purpose of choosing a progressive? I mean, this dude is I'm going to call him a socialist because he's praised socialism and he said, one man's socialism is just another man's neighborliness. And I got to try to get his mouth. It's hard because Tim Walz talks like this. His mouth really weird and I don't know. I'm not trying to insult the guy, but that's what he does. Anyway. The Daily Beast says Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris has selected Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. CNN first reported the vice president's decision. The vice president placed courtesy calls to the other finalists who had campaigned and auditioned for the number 2 slot during a frenzied past few weeks. An unassuming former high school teacher and football coach, Walz, 60, emerged as a surprise standout in the Democratic Veep stakes by coining the viral label weird for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. The chief executive of a Democratic-leaning state that the Republicans have nonetheless said they are making a play for, the Minnesotan, brings rural roots and Midwestern appeal to crucial swing states Harris needs to win. Does he really? I got to tell you this, my friends. This could be a massive signal of good news for Donald Trump. That is, typically, you're going to choose a candidate, a VP candidate, who's going to help you win, right? Donald Trump chooses J.D. Vance. And a lot of people are like, why J.D. Vance, right? He's a newcomer, not a lot of experience. What does he bring? Ohio? Donald Trump wants to make sure Ohio is going to be clean red. And people in Ohio, they like J.D. Vance. He's won before. He's proven it. So Trump makes the obvious play. Where am I weak? The blue wall states are what you need to win. Donald Trump is narrowly ahead in some of these states. So he says, JD, you join me. We win Ohio, and you're going to help us get the rest of the Rust Belt. PA, you're going to help us get PA. You're going to help us get potentially Wisconsin, but likely Michigan. We'll see. Now, think about this. Kamala Harris could have chosen Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, which she needs to win. If Kamala Harris is able to win PA, it makes this race very tight. Instead, she chose Walz from a blue state, light blue. Now, what does that mean for Trump? The Kamala Harris campaign may actually think the polls are wrong and are overrepresenting Democrats, meaning Minnesota is in play. Donald Trump could actually win in Minnesota, so she needs to be on the defensive. I think this means she's actually planning on losing. Internally, I bet Kamala Harris and Democrats know their chances of winning are very weak. Despite the public polling, which usually oversamples Democrats, she's thinking, we can't do PA because we're too far behind, regardless of the public polling. Minnesota, we could actually lose, so we need Walz. That's crazy. They say Walz served in the Army for 24 years and served 6 terms in the U.S. House before he was elected governor in 2018. After his re-election in 2022, and with his party in full control of the state government, he led what his local paper called one of the most consequential sessions in state history. In the frenzy leading up to his selection, he was championed by labor unions. Walz also seemed to be former Speaker Nancy Pelosi's top choice for VP, a source familiar with her thinking. I love that. I'm familiar with Nancy Pelosi's thinking. She was thinking about ice cream. You want to write that one? Harris, who became the instant presumptive Democratic nominee for president the day Joe Biden caved to intense pressure, chose Walz over a field that narrowed to Governors Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Andy Beshear of Kentucky, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, as well as Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. and Pete Buttigieg. Blah, 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 blah. Well, Charlie Kirk immediately went for the throat. Shout out. Charlie Kirk says, "Welcome to the race, Tim Walz. Let's make sure America knows who you are. You helped ignite the George Floyd riots, the worst the country had seen in decades. While Minneapolis burned, you stalled on deploying the National Guard for an entire day, blaming the city for not submitting the right paperwork. You let your daughter leak the Guard's deployment plans online so that rioters would know how long they had to loot the city with impunity. Minneapolis is a war zone because of you. Just days after the attempted murder of Donald Trump, you called him and his supporters fascists, egging on the same rhetoric that led to him being shot in the first place. You have overseen some of the most radical youth trans surgery laws in the country. Under your leadership, teenagers can get their breasts chopped off and sterilized, and your government calls it health care. You have the most radical abortion laws in the country, zero limits. Every year, 5 to 6 babies are born alive and then murdered legally under laws you support. On immigration, you famously said you wanted to provide a ladder so invaders can come over Trump's wall. You're a radical open border zealot. You oversaw the single worst fraud of the COVID era, defeating our future case. Thanks to ineptitude at your Department of Education, criminals stole $250 million of taxpayer dollars to spend on luxury cars, houses, and vacations. Also, during COVID, you approved $500 million in hero pay for frontline workers, only to have 40% of that money go to people who are ineligible or, in many cases, literally deceased. In the House, you were Pelosi's sidekick and did whatever the Democrats demanded. You will try and disguise yourself as a folksy Midwestern moderate. In reality, you are a white male version of Kamala Harris, radical, inept, undeserving to be in leadership. Make this go viral, ruin their honeymoon. Let's educate millions because the media will not. Heavens. We have AJ Delgado. Here's a fun one. Delgado is, let's refresh this to rename it properly. AJ Delgado says, MAGA original founder, but now proudly anti-Trump. Okay, anti-Trump. What does she say? Waltz, what a mistake. That's all I'll say on the matter. I can't keep wasting time helping. You needed to win Pennsylvania. You had Shapiro right there and you passed. Epic mistake that probably cost Harris the election. Ha! Harris just made the same mistake Trump made. A VP pick that her base demanded versus the candidate that appealed to the center and moderates that you needed to bring in to win. Walz is just as liberal, if not more so than Harris. What a colossal mistake. Well, let me give you this one. Let's see how this one plays with the older voting bloc.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But we can.
He's quite literally calling himself a socialist. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't like socialism. So I will say, how about no to that? I'd like to show you this. I tweeted this the other day. We talked about it on Timcast IRL. I don't like Kamala Harris. I'll tell you what I fear. Man, this is a tough scenario. I long for a political leader, a politician who is, I don't know, all that and more, the bee's knees or whatever else. I don't know. Donald Trump gets the job done. He's not my first choice. I do like Donald Trump. I think he's been the greatest president of my lifetime. Not a high bar. No new wars, peace agreements, a good economy. A lot of mistakes. Dude's not perfect. I can't expect anyone to be. I'd prefer someone other than Donald Trump. I think a lot of people would. But Donald Trump is probably the best we got right now. So I can accept that. And I think Donald Trump is actually generally good. He's funny. He's fun. So I like it. Okay, fine. I don't know. I like Vivek Ramaswamy. But I think Donald Trump currently is our best choice. Though when I look at the current field, I'm like, man, this is what the Democrats have to muster up. Kamala Harris. She has no campaign positions. She was selected and installed without a single vote. So I tell you what I fear. Donald Trump, I understand. A lot of people like his energy. He pushes back. He insults the enemies of the people. He calls the elite power, the power elites and the global elites losers. And he actually, well, he's a fighter. The people voted for him. The Republican primary was hard fought. Ron DeSantis supporters still to this day despise Trump. Some of them have come around to they'll vote for him because they won't vote for Kamala Harris and they don't want her to win. But it was pretty brutal. Vivek, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, a real primary. And Vivek did pretty well. Not enough. Nikki Haley actually got some votes, but probably from Democrats. Ron DeSantis did surprisingly well, but nowhere near as good as many people thought he would. The people said Donald Trump. I respect it. I do. We had a real primary with real choices, and the people said Donald Trump, thank you and have a nice day. So I have no problem voting for Trump. I don't know that Ron DeSantis has the backbone to be president. Kamala Harris is basically Chinese Communist Party style governance. The party installs her, tells you to vote for her, and she's leading in the polls. I fear what happens to this country if we get to the point where you can actually have an installed president. Not that it hasn't happened before, but to this degree, overt and in your face. I have to wonder, how desperate is the deep state to make moves like this? But that being said, I got to say, I think Kamala Harris may have Tourette syndrome or some kind of Tourette's or something. I am not being cute. I mean that quite literally. And I'll play this clip to explain why. Joey Manorino says, this is the only 13 seconds Trump needs to play on repeat for the next 92 days to win the election. Okay, well, what is this video?
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah. You know.
Okay. Now that you've heard that, let's assess. I don't care that she's saying stay woke. That's mindless Democrat platitudes. They have T-shirts, stay woke. And that's what she's doing. No, the issue I take is, why is she laughing here? No, hold on. I've criticized her weird laugh before. But her weird laugh before was not like this. When you see more and more instances where Kamala Harris is hiccuping mid-sentence and can't speak when there's nothing funny happening and no one's talking, it seems like a tic. I am not trying to insult her over this. I'm highlighting, I think there's actually something psychologically wrong, like a Tourette syndrome of some sort. I'm sorry, dude. I'll do this. I'll throw it to the Krasensteins. Explain this to me in a rational, logical way. When you have a scenario where someone says, Donald Trump recently said this of you, and she goes, well, you know, Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I can understand laughing. Maybe it's inappropriate, kind of weird, but I can understand laughing in the context where you're asked a question, you then laugh, and then you answer something. This is a video, and I'll play it again, where Kamala struggles to speak because she's... I'm like, is she having like a tic? She can't control this. I mean this literally.
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah. You know.
She couldn't even say whatever. Was she trying to say whatever?
Yeah.
The women around her aren't laughing. She's having a serious discussion, and just listen to the middle where she's going. Listen to this.
And you can talk about if you're the wokest.
I wonder if the laughter is to mask that she actually has some kind of tic, or she has some psychological communication issue. It's why she's not doing interviews. Again, I mean it. So we were asked last night at Timcast IRL by one of our members, do we think she'll pull a basement campaign again? And I said, she already is. I mean, certainly a video like this has come out for sure, but she's not doing straightforward sit down interviews about the campaign or what she's doing. She's walking up and saying goodbye. I honestly think that I'll lay it out like this. Democrats are probably convinced they're going to lose. The market is in dire straits. Even with Kamala ahead in the polls right now, you've got the issue of polling favoring Democrats historically because they oversample or otherwise. Underestimating Republicans, honestly, I have no idea. The market factors play a huge role. And so they may be thinking like, we're not going to be able to win this one. And so they choose Kamala Harris. They install her because they want to avoid a brutal primary and they want to avoid burning any future talent. They're thinking to themselves, look, Trump's going to win this one. Biden was bad, is bad, and Kamala ain't got nothing behind her. So what are they thinking? We're not going to win. Buttigieg can't win the presidency. No way. What else you got? Pritzker, Shapiro, Walz, like these other personalities. Whitmer, Newsom. Newsom's not going to be able to go up against Trump. So what do? They say, we need a placeholder candidate who we don't think can win, but we have to have a candidate. Imagine if the Democrats came out and said, we have no one. So there's no one. Sorry. Well, then you're going to end up with an RFK Jr. because there are people willing to run. They don't want RFK Jr. to run. He's not an establishment guy. It may be a little weird, and it's funny for me to say that considering the Democrat talking point, but certainly not what Democrats are looking for, because he would actually challenge power structures. Not that I agree with him on his policies or his worldviews, but he's certainly not in line with the deep state and the establishment. So they say, okay, fine. Kamala Harris, and then what? Doesn't matter. Pick somebody. They're going to run. They're going to lose. I will stress this again. Dude, this clip freaks me out. She's sitting down at a Recode interview and she can't even talk without like, I'm sorry, it's not laughing.
And you can talk about if you stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah. You know. And
then she laughs at the end and she can't even say the word whatever. Look, I think people are looking at this clip, and this clip's got 8 million views. And I think a lot of people are looking at this and they're saying, haha, she said stay woke, stay woke. Wow, we should make fun of her over that. There's a clip where it contrasts this video with Donald Trump. And then she's like, stay woke. And then it shows Trump and he goes, you know what it means? If you're woke, it means you're a loser. And I think that shows people are not really getting, I don't care that she says stay woke. Democrats say that stuff all the time. They say they are woke. They're proud of it. It's a word they coined. And then people on the right made fun of them for it and said, you know what, you are. Now they're like, oh, seriously consider. And that's what you need to show. Actually, maybe, look, we got 28,000 people watching. So one of you guys can do me the favor. Make a video clip of all of the times where Kamala Harris could not finish a sentence because she was going, I think it's time we actually break that down, because people often point out she's laughing again. I don't think she's laughing here. I think she's using laughter to cover up her inability to speak properly because she's suffering some kind of ailment. I will stress that again. When someone asks her a question and she goes, well, let me tell, if someone said, Tim, you know, you recently bought a skateboard and then people said your skateboard is bad. I was like, yeah, please. You know, let me tell you that I understand. But if I was talking and started while I was talking, that is something's wrong with this lady. She's a throwaway candidate, in my opinion, but we'll see. I still think she can win. Y'all better, I don't know, redouble your efforts because she's leading in the polls. And I'll stress that to you again. But I'll give you more on this one. Now, everybody thought Josh Shapiro was going to be the VP. Why? Because Kamala needs to win Pennsylvania. So right now, Trump is basically leading in these areas. Well, you got polls saying, let's do this. Let's do this, actually. Let's do Wisconsin. Wisconsin's got Trump up. So let's go bang, Wisconsin. Let's then jump over to Michigan. Michigan currently has Kamala Harris up. So let's jump back to Michigan and we'll turn that light blue. And then we'll grab Pennsylvania and see where we're currently at. Trump is up 1.8. This makes no sense. Trump winning. That's it. Without Nevada, without Arizona, if Trump just wins Ohio, Wisconsin, and PA, well, Georgia's interesting too. But the current map, based on polling, has Trump set to win if he just gets, he's up in Wisconsin, and he's up in PA. I'm pretty sure he's easily up in Ohio. They don't even have Ohio considered a swing state. Look at Georgia. Georgia has Trump up. Okay, fine. What about Arizona? Arizona, Trump is up. Nevada, Trump is up. Okay, let's run with it. Let's run with it. Trump's at 297 electoral votes. Kamala Harris absolutely needs Pennsylvania, not Minnesota. How does any of this make sense? Unless Minnesota is actually leaning red and they are terrified and they're desperately trying to hold the line. But either way, you know what I will do? Taking a look at Nevada, however, you can see that Harris is up as of the time she announced she's running. The only other poll has Trump up 10. That's not fair. That makes no sense. So let's go to Nevada and say Nevada's actually going blue. Let's say it's light blue. Then let's jump back over and take a look at Arizona. Arizona's polling actually has it fairly split, but Emerson does have a poll from when Kamala announced. So I think it's fair to say Trump still is getting Arizona. Let's take a look at Georgia. I think Trump's got clean right now. You've got several polls that all the polls have come out since Kamala Harris announced that she would be the candidate or that she was running and Biden was dropping out. So we will see. But you've got two polls from the same date, and it looks like the two different groups, Trump is ahead by a small fraction. So Trump's got Georgia. I don't think North Carolina we really need to take a look at. Trump's got that clean. They don't have Virginia shown, which would be interesting, by the way. But that's just it. Kamala desperately needs, if we're looking at Minnesota, and Minnesota is light blue, she needs to flip this. If she flips PA, then it's a tight race. Wisconsin leaning Trump, Nevada leaning Kamala. It's 272. Trump is still winning. Maybe that's the issue. I'm even giving them Michigan, but maybe that's the issue. They know even if they win Pennsylvania, they will not be able to secure this. I think Kamala's a throwaway candidate. I think she's suffering she has some kind of tic, some kind of Tourette's, and the wheezing and the laugh and the laugh. I'll put it this way. In the middle of her sentence, when she's like, then she starts laughing afterwards. Whatever. I think she's trying to make it seem like she was laughing the whole time. Maybe it's a nervous tic, not like a Tourette's thing. She's terrified. She's never been in a position like this. National stage, high security. Some dude threatened her. Not cool. They arrested the guy. That's not cool. People should not be doing that. I wonder if she's terrified. And so she's basically panicking. So I'd like to see this, if you guys could, the decentralization of the viewer base. Can you guys find all the times, not where she just laughed inappropriately, but where mid-sentence she's going, like she's struggling to actually speak? That's a compilation I think people should see because I have questions about her physical health. Now going back to Josh Shapiro. Progressive sound alarm as Shapiro VP stock rises. Yeah, they said that, Palestinian protests and young people and things like that, they're not going to like his handling of the humanitarian crisis and his support for Benjamin Netanyahu. Yo, wild. Josh Shapiro apologized for supporting Israel. He did. Unpacked says, did he? He did. He wrote this thing back in 1993, I guess it was. I think they have it here. In September 23rd, 1993 edition of the Campus Times, 20-year-old Shapiro blamed the Palestinian mindsets for the lack of a two-state solution. They are too battle-minded to be able to establish a peaceful homeland of their own. They will grow tired of fighting amongst themselves and turn outside against Israel. The only way the peace plan will be successful is if the Palestinians do not ruin it. Palestinians will not coexist peacefully. He is like, I was young back then, please vote for me. Bro. You were never going to be the VP pick. They can't have a strong pro-Israel Jew when the far left hate you guys. And I find it disgusting. I actually thought he was the right choice. I have no problem with, you're allowed to be Jewish. But let's be real. The left is going to come out and say, it's not about him being Jewish, Tim. Spare me. I won't play your games. I have been on the ground. I spent 10 years covering protests on the ground. I know what these people say behind the scenes. I've read the articles. But more importantly, I've physically witnessed them say the words out of their own mouths. We had Taylor Hansen from Tenet Media on the show. On the ground, man on the street, interviews and covering these protests today. Me? 10 years ago. I did it for 10 years. And then, okay. Around, I think, 2018, 2019 is when I started slowing things down and shifting into more podcasting and surface level, national level and international news reporting and commentary. So I basically retired from the field work. Taylor Hansen currently doing the field work. So I asked him, we said this on the Culture War podcast, Tenet Media, shout out, Friday mornings, 10 a.m. I said, if you put a camera in front of these people, they're going to say, we have no problem with Jewish people, none whatsoever. It's, Israel is But what do they say when the camera's off? I asked Taylor, I was like, when you're not filming, I'd be willing to bet you've seen them say outright, it's the Jews. And he's like, oh, yeah, dude, no, absolutely. You turn the camera on, they start trying to play this narrative game of like, no, we're not bigots. It's just Israel is a colonial state. And then you turn the camera off and they're like, Jewish people started the slave trade, blah, blah, blah. Not an exaggeration. This was covered by Tablet Magazine over the Women's March. The organizers were like, look, they're pro-Farrakhan. They despise Jewish people outright. And this was the issue with Shapiro the whole time. So, of course, they were going to go for Walz. Well, so be it, my friends. I don't know what else to tell you. This was the game the left was always going to play. And I was surprised they actually were considering Shapiro. You know what they needed? They needed this guy. There are many Democrat Jewish voters who are concerned about the far left anti-Israel protests because as well as, and I can respect people being anti-Israel, 100%. Cassandra McDonald, one of my best friends, very critical of Israel, totally fine. Hey, man, I don't want foreign intervention. I don't want to be funding foreign wars. I don't want to be involved with those countries. I am not talking about people who feel that way. I'm saying you had people on the ground in like Connecticut. A Hasidic Jew tries walking onto campus and they wouldn't let him. He didn't even say anything. They're just like, nope. A guy was walking around with the Star of David. They started yelling at him, calling him a Zionist. Just the Star of David. And they say, yeah, but there are Jews who support the far left as well. Sure, there are. But when they blanket target someone for how they look and not their political ideas, you get the picture. That being said, I have witnessed the people on the ground at various protests say outright, Jews, not Israel. Taylor Hansen says the same thing. These people are not going to support this ticket. But what would Josh Shapiro do? While that causes fear among Jewish voters who are Democrats and maybe not even pro-Israel, they could have chosen Shapiro, had a strong showing in Pennsylvania, and basically issued a rebuke to the far left anti-Semites. Not going to happen. Certainly not going to happen. The dude had to apologize for being critical of Hamas, basically. Now, by all means, my friends, stay critical of Israel. I don't care. They're not the United States, and you're allowed to have opinions on any country you want. And if you don't like Israel, by all means, don't like Israel. My only issue that I'm bringing up right now is Jewish identity was the real concern. They could not have that. And it shows you who they're going for. Tim Walz is far left, praise socialism, and this is the candidate they chose. It shows you the direction of the party. So, I kind of feel like they're not going to be able to win. They're probably throwaway candidates. Let's be real. I'm going to wrap up this first segment. Our next story is going to be about Donald Trump and Aiden Ross and the Cybertruck. Huge story. Aiden Ross is a huge Gen Z streamer, wildly supporting Donald Trump, gifting him a Cybertruck with the Trump assassination photo wrapped on it. And what they're saying is he may have broken the law. Okay, well, if you wanted to really make Gen Z vote for Donald Trump, attack Aiden Ross and call what he's doing illegal and make him your enemy. Platforming white supremacists, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. We'll talk about that next. For now, we will grab your super chats in the stream. Hope you are all having a very fun and wonderful Tuesday. Tacty Platty says, this shows Kamala big glug energy, not brat. Agreed. Barely a Millennial says, get Cheryl Riley on. She's running against Raskin. You know, our last studio was in Maryland. We were not in Raskin's district. We were about 15 minutes away from his office. Many of our employees still to this day live in his district. And he had the nerve to include me in one of his J6 garbage videos, falsely accusing me of fanning the flames of J6 for simply reading a Fox News article. While there were streamers saying things like kick the door in and red wedding, it then shows a video of me being like, wow, Donald Trump's calling for protests. I think it's going to get crazy. Uh-huh. What a scumbag. Liar. Well, we're going to talk about him, too, because we're bringing him up in the story when a video surfaced of him basically saying he wants to stage a coup. We'll talk about what's illegal. You want to accuse Aiden Ross of illegal behavior. All right. Thomas Conservative says, can't wait to hear about it. I have to audit the video in spirit today. Well, right on, right on. Yes Man says, are you team cameraman or team skibbity? You know, I've seen those videos, but I honestly don't know what the context is behind what that means. So I know there's people who have camera heads and then whatever. They're making a show about it, I guess. I got to say, like, Skibbity Toilet is one of the greatest achievements of art, in my opinion. It's like the dude made something silly and nonsensical and it went viral, and he's just iterated upon it until it's gone to like the most absurd levels imaginable. It is absurdist art masterpiece. 100%. There's like how many episodes now, and it's like planes and there's a war going on, and I'm just like, that's epic. I'm a big fan of absurdist comedy, humor, and art. The big Klobaznik says, Tim, you need a 30-second intro to account for the ads. So I don't put ads on the live stream. If YouTube's doing that, it's automatic, and I actually put for it not to do that. So I don't know. The other thing is, the problem with a 30-second intro is that people who try to watch later then have 30 seconds of dead air. So it's difficult, I suppose. All right, we'll grab some more. I'm not your buddy guy says, I love how the reasoning Shapiro wasn't picked comes down to why the National Socialists were always a left-wing movement and not right-wing. Yep. Vincent Ruiz says, Trump and Aiden interview was gold. Trump came across very likable. So this morning, I get sent a clip of the Aiden Ross interview. They're hanging out in the Cybertruck, and Trump puts on the music. And what does he pick? California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas. It was great. And it's one of my favorite songs ever. Recently, I sang karaoke with Allison, and she did the female lines, and I did the male lines, and we were singing karaoke down the street, and it was a lot of fun. So seeing Trump pick that song, I like Trump's taste in music. We like Donald Trump, don't we? All right. G. Fisher says, how did none of the bio-female boxers in the Olympics low blow the supposed male boxers to prove a point of the protest? Missed opportunity. Because the issue is these biologically male boxers may have a DSD. What is it? A disorder of sexual development, meaning they may have internal testes, because that happened before. The interesting thing, however, is there's even liberals critical of the Olympics right now saying the IOC, the Olympic Committee's standard is that your passport says M or F. That is not a standard. It means different countries will have different rules for admittance. That makes no sense. The IOC needs to have a universal rule for who's allowed to enter. So it was actually interesting to see liberals talking about that. Alexander Harold says, Minnesota resident here, Walz is awful. The final straw for me was COVID, CAC mandate for children in schools. Thank God it didn't pass. He's one of the most radical outgroup preference. He is of the radical outgroup preference type. Indeed he is. Thrust Trunk Punch. Speaking as a broke Minnesotan, you want Walz as far from the levels of power as possible. Why does he talk like this? Like he intentionally talks like this. My mouth is stuck in this way. I don't know. Is that just the way he talks? I find it strange. All right, we'll grab a couple more. What do we have? Rob Gratz says, I live in PA and Shapiro was a younger Democrat governor in his first term. He claims to be moderate, and I think he recognizes touching this dumpster fire. Nah, Shapiro wanted to be the nominee. All right, I'm sorry, he wanted to be the VP candidate. That's the right way to put it. Yeah, sad for him, though. He tried backing away from his pro-Israel views. Stuart Voxberger says, Biden won from his basement. What does Kamala really got to do? Shadow campaign. That's all. That's why I'm saying she's going to win. I think she has a strong chance of winning. Really, it's a toss-up. I can't tell you. I have no idea. Yeah. Here we go. Here's a regular chat. Soul Searcher says, Timcast, you were right about the woman that got punched by the male boxer. I no longer stand with her. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I told you guys, and we had that Timcast member, Clint Torres. And he said, I will not support you, Tim, because you won't denounce the male boxing the female. And I'm like, neither will the female boxer. Angela Carini defended, supported, and wished for the success of the biologically male boxer. The story's actually gotten pretty crazy. More developments have come out. Turns out 2 different tests were done. The International Boxing Association, or whatever it's called, IBA, I think it is, ran a test due to some people saying, I think this is a man. Why? They look like guys. And so they did the test, and the test came back positive. XY chromosomes. They had an independent lab certified, the results were checked by like a U.S. university, and they were like, that's a male. And so the IBA did not disqualify at first. They said, okay, well, we really want to be sure. Apparently, the next year, when these two male fighters showed up, they said, we're doing another test and got another confirmation and said, okay, we've done 2 tests. Both have come back the same. You're disqualified. You're men. And the IOC says, but their passport doesn't say that. Not a standard. Interesting story. All right. What have we here? Zod says Jack Posobiec has been flooding X with info on Shapiro since he was eyed as VP to keep Kamala's claws out of PA. That plus the terrorist base, I think, kept Shapiro off. Walt's pick is admitting defeat. Even the left and liberals and Democrats are saying that. That's crazy. Way More, the Outlaw says Kamala Harris may have a pseudo-Bulber effect, which is inappropriate involuntary laughing and crying due to a nervous system disorder. I genuinely think that's the case. Like Hillary Clinton would laugh inappropriately and I'd call her a cackling fiend. I've called Kamala. I take it back. I apologize to Kamala Harris. I do. I thought she was trying to do some PR move where they said laugh to come off as, jovial and not so negative all the time. After watching that clip where she's going, I'm like, she's masking some kind of nervous disorder that makes it difficult for her to speak. And I genuinely think that. I really, really do. When she's in calm settings, she seems to talk just fine. But so there are videos, and prove me wrong. Like, seriously, put the clips together, prove me wrong. The videos where she's at a podium and she's speaking to the cameras, everything seems fine. And she's like, I wanted to say this, that, and otherwise. But when she's in front of a crowd, she's hyperventilating. Not always. Sometimes I wonder if she puts on the laughter because she knows sometimes she does this involuntary spasm. Legit. All right. We'll grab a couple more here. Let's see. Not sure with the Idiocracy reference. It's a good reference. $50 super chat and you're awesome. Is that a hamster waving sparklers? Okay. Thor says, longtime fan, where is Joe Biden and did he really walk onto the wrong plane? He didn't walk onto the wrong plane. Joe Biden boarded the plane at from the prisoner swap. The Russians in the U.S. had a prisoner swap when the plane landed and they came off. Biden was standing there and then boarded the plane. And everyone's like, Joe, what are you doing and why are you getting on the plane? And then later, the Democrats were like, he was just trying to greet the pilots. Like, what? I mean, maybe. Whatever, dude. All right. Let's let me grab some of my yerba over here. I got the berry lemonade flavor today. I love this yerba stuff, man. And we'll jump to this story from Rolling Stone. Oh boy. Rolling Stone says Trump got a free Cybertruck from streamer Aiden Ross. Is that legal? And it's not just Rolling Stone. Take a look at this. The New York Times says Aiden Ross gives Trump a Cybertruck, a Rolex, and access to a heavily male audience. In this story, they basically say he may be engaged in. Let me see the campaign. Where is it? Streaming audience. Here we go. They say all those price tags exceed the federal limit on individual campaign contributions, making Ross's show of generosity a potential campaign finance violation. Oh, interesting. I'm gonna do a quick Google search while we're here for Jamie Raskin and Civil War and see if anything comes up in the news. Why, heavens to Betsy, there's not. You've got the Federalist. We expect that from the Federalist. They'll call this stuff out. But when you Google search comments from Jamie Raskin about saying he wants Civil War conditions and will use the weight of government to block Donald Trump if he actually wins, well, the Federalist wrote about it. Where's anybody else? Nowhere to be found. But Aiden Ross. So here's what happens. Aiden Ross is a prominent Gen Z streamer. He got 500,000. I don't know how Kick works, if it's concurrent streamers or total views. 500,000 still. Hefty number. And what happens? They say, is this legal? Well, let's read the New York Times. Because this is big. This is Donald Trump getting access to a largely young male audience. What do you give a former president who has everything? Aiden Ross, an internet celebrity known for stirring controversy, answered that question with a gold Rolex watch and a customized Tesla Cybertruck, both of which he presented to Donald J. Trump during an interview that was live streamed on Monday afternoon. I think it's incredible, said Mr. Trump as he eyeballed the electric vehicle, which was parked in the Porte-Cochere, is that how you pronounce it? I don't know, of Mar-a-Lago, his private club and residence in Florida. The car, closely associated with Trump supporting chief executive of Tesla, Elon Musk, and subject of an ongoing culture war, what does that mean, has been in short supply since Tesla began selling it in the late 2023. This one, which Mr. Ross drove to his interview, was festooned in red, white, and blue with Mr. Trump's campaign slogan, Make America Great Again, emblazoned on the hood. On each side was the now ubiquitous photo of Republican presidential nominee, fist raised defiantly, taken seconds after the attempt on his life at a campaign rally last month. That's right. Smash that like button, ladies and gentlemen. One like means one fight, fight, fight. That's what Donald Trump said. I love how they're like, Donald Trump's a moron for standing up. He could have got shot again. But look what it did for him. So call him a moron. I say, taking a risk. You call it what you want. Before a streaming audience that at times topped 500,000 people, Mr. Trump then climbed into the Cybertruck and along with Mr. Ross listened to the songs from a custom playlist prepared for the occasion. Who doesn't like the Beach Boys, Mr. Trump asked. He was equally admiring the watch. Wow, that's so nice, he chirped. Per Tesla's website, a base model Cybertruck has a sticker price of $60,990, with high-end trims topping $100,000. Customized wrap, the printed vinyl sticker covering every exterior surface of the vehicle, starts around $4,000. Rolex watches typically start at $5,000. All of those price tags far exceed the federal limit on individual campaign contributions, which is $3,300 per election cycle. In cash or in kind, making Mr. Ross' show of generosity a potential campaign finance violation. And there you go. Jamie Raskin has a viral video right now. I'm going to play it for you because I'm trying to juxtapose these two scenarios where Jamie Raskin basically admits to conspiring to block Donald Trump's legal election victory, which is like he's basically telling us he wants an insurrection. Hey, they said January 6th was an insurrection. He's calling for a Democrat January 6th. Listen to what he says.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but...
I want you to pause real quick before we play the rest of this clip. Bodyguards for everyone and Civil War conditions. This man, and this video is from February. The video got only about 7,500 views, so nobody noticed it. It was at a Politics and Prose event. I guess it was in D.C. I'm not entirely sure. What he is saying is that if Donald Trump wins, they will use physical force in violation of the law. The Supreme Court already ruled. We got to break this down, okay? The Supreme Court said you can't disqualify him. The 14th Amendment doesn't apply here. He is saying, so what? We will get bodyguards for everyone. We will block Trump on January 6th, and we will have Civil War conditions. He's quite literally saying, in defiance of Supreme Court orders, in defiance of the law and the Constitution, because he believes he's right, they will enact the use of force against Donald Trump. This is a public declaration of the intent to commit an insurrection. And especially by their own definition, right?
Justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that.
Absolutely amazing to see. Now, let's pop back over to the New York Times. When I Google searched this, doesn't come up. There's an article from the New York Times with Jamie Raskin in it from May 20th. Nothing. Raskin's revolution. Raskin plans an insurrection against Trump. That's must-read Alaska. But where's the mainstream media to call out what is clearly illegal activity? But Aiden Ross did a live stream where he said he was gifting Trump a vehicle and maybe a campaign finance violation. Okay, fair point. Maybe. But priorities much? I would expect that, quote, I would expect that once Trump gets off the live stream and talks to his lawyers, he'll be advised that he can't accept these gifts and will have to turn them down or give them to charity, said Brendan Fisher, a campaign finance expert who is deputy executive director at Documented, a watchdog group. He added, what other conclusion can you come to other than that this is an excessive campaign contribution? Carolyn Levitt, a Trump spokeswoman, said in a statement that our campaign will submit an advisory opinion to the FEC to seek guidance on how to handle these gifts, referring to FEC. Regardless, the more crucial gift the president got by sitting for the interview may well be access to the millions of young, mostly male and right-leaning potential voters who follow Mr. Ross on social media. Ross, 23, rose to fame by streaming himself playing video games. He routinely draws 150,000 or more simultaneous viewers on those streams, which can run for 5 or more hours at a time. And look at me sitting here on YouTube with only 32,000. Aiden Ross is a superstar. And this is what he's helping Donald Trump. Gen Z dudes like Trump. 5 or more hours at a time. Wow. I only do 2. But he has provoked some backlash over the guests he has welcomed on the stream, like Andrew Tate. We know Andrew Tate is. He's also given airtime to Nick Fuentes. Yes, so what? An avowed white supremacist. I don't think Nick Fuentes vows himself as a white supremacist. And he's also hosted neo-Nazis wearing swastika emblems. I don't know about anything about that. He was sanctioned by Twitch for making homophobic statements, blah, blah, blah. Now he hosts his stream on Kick. But he remains enormously popular with a testosterone-heavy demographic that Mr. Trump sees as critical to his re-election chances. The key is getting those men to the voting booth. And so Mr. Trump in June sat for an interview with Logan Paul, a professional wrestler, energy drink entrepreneur, and influencer with more than 50 million social media followers, including 27 million on Instagram alone. Last week, Mr. Trump posted 2 videos with Jake Paul. I got to tell you, I'm a big Logan Paul fan. I mean it. I follow these guys. I mean, they're younger than me. They go for a younger audience. And I started seeing some clips about Logan Paul talking about business. And I was like, I like this guy. Logan Paul. Jake Paul's sillier. I don't know if it's more of a persona act thing that they do for their business. Most people tell you like Jake Paul is kind of more hated than Logan. All I can tell you is Logan is based. I mean, political or whatever. I don't know if he's voting for Trump. I'm assuming he is. But I've heard him talk about business, hard work, how he gets things done. And I tremendously respect him for this. There's a great video where like someone sneaks in and tries to get a job and Logan Paul gives him this talk. And I'm like, this Logan Paul dude knows what hard work means. And that's where he's at. And I respect that. They're going to say he's also twice granted interviews to the Nelk Boys, a group of Canadian pranksters famous on YouTube. On Friday, the Nelk Boys released an hour-long podcast with J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate. So far has logged 1.2 million views. Mr. Aiden proved to be a decidedly non-confrontational interlocutor for Mr. Trump. Over nearly 90 minutes, he gave Mr. Trump space to repeatedly demean and insult Harris and Biden, and to boast or complain however he saw fit. Aiden also openly entreated his audience to vote for the Republican and endorse an endorsement so enthusiastic that it appeared to surprise even Mr. Trump. Trump said he had been interviewed many times by people who really do like me, but they wouldn't do what you just did. They wouldn't say vote for him. I think it's great that you can say something like that. I think I said something like that. I didn't say in the interview I did with Trump, go vote for Trump. I said something like, I hope you win. And I genuinely mean it. I'm going to be completely honest with all of you guys, and then we'll talk about the Jamie Raskin stuff and the paradox in the media and where we actually may be going. If I had my choice of who would be the presidential candidate, like, you know, if I could snap my fingers and make a president, I'd probably pick Dave Smith. I just don't think Dave Smith could ever actually win the presidency. He's certainly the best the Libertarians had to offer. But the thing about Dave Smith and the Libertarians, the Mises Caucus Libertarians, and versus Donald Trump. Trump is realistic. We are dealing with a machine that has been built over hundreds of years that you simply can't just knock down overnight. And there are many people and many libertarians who think the only path to solving this is to have, say, someone like Dave Smith as president, a libertarian who's going to be like, we're gutting everything and shutting it down. You can't do that. No, I mean, like literally, it can't be done. Trump tried with Schedule F. He's going to try again. You can't just overnight shut things down because there's a legal process, there's courts, there's lawsuits. It takes a long time to do. So my view is this. I'm a bit of a revolutionary in a certain respect. And what I mean by that is I want radical change for the betterment of this country, restoration of constitutional principles to be upheld as they're supposed to be. I think the family is the most important structure of governance in this country, and we need to default to strong family structures. A lot of these things, right? How do we get there? You're not going to get there with pie in the sky visions of trying to elect someone who promises to just shut government down overnight. It's not going to happen. You need strong, you need aggressive change, but it has to be, it's going to be gradual. Like I said, imagine someone building a castle over hundreds of years. It is massive. It is made of stone. Now, it can be knocked down, but there's still people inside it. Your food stores are still there. And while you want it to change, it's going to have to be someone who demands radical change, who's willing to do it and has the tools to do it, but it's not going to be instant overnight. That's why I think Trump makes the most sense right now. But if Dave Smith really could win, not that he wants to be president anyway, but someone like him, or Ron Paul, or Rand Paul, or even Thomas Massie, I think they do an infinitely better job. Actually, I'd say this. Thomas Massie is probably the better choice. Not that I think he wants to be president, but I disagree with him on a lot of things. And I think that's actually important, that I think he recognizes there's not going to be an immediate, wrecking ball solution to a lot of these problems, though he would be extremely aggressive in that scenario. So let's take it to where we are now with this Jamie Raskin stuff, where he's basically saying we need civil war conditions. All right. Well, we have a story here from MSN. U.S. civil war concerns rise, according to study. We have this from CBS News. They say attempted assassination of Donald Trump spurred a huge spike in calls for violence and civil war online. I think you are wrong, ma'am. Anna Schechter, who writes the story. I think the reality is, after the attempt on Donald Trump's life, people are terrified a civil war might actually happen. But this is the dirty game the dirty smear merchants like to play. They say Tim Pool wants civil war, despite me saying you are wrong. We bring people on Timcast IRL who say we should have a peaceful divorce. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't. You do not want a national divorce. Now, again, in context with the Aiden Ross story, I'm just saying, it's kind of interesting that CBS is saying we're getting a huge call for threats of violence. You've got this story from NBC News. Virginia man charged with threatening to kill Kamala Harris. Not okay at all. We should redouble her security, Joe Biden's security. They should be under the same. They should have the highest degree of security protocol. We do not want harm to befall any of these politicians right now, because that is a catalyst for disaster. But I will stress, where's the concern about what Jamie Raskin said in that video among anyone in the corporate press? But they are certainly outraged about Aiden Ross. This is the problem with this country that we're facing right now. Here's my concern. My concern is that we're actually heading towards some kind of civil war. We are in a period of civil strife. It doesn't mean civil war is guaranteed, but it is the precursor. I'm hoping a Donald Trump presidency is marginally good. He's not going to be a dictator. He's not going to roll in the tanks. There's not going to be a big breakdown and camps and trucks and trains. That's a hyperbole from Democrats. They're losing their minds. Now, it'll be marginally good. I hope he brings some accountability. I hope Democrats face some criminal accountability for the illegal things they've done, notably with Russiagate, the Burisma scandal, and things like that, which have since gone unanswered in many ways. And, you've got the confidential documents with Joe Biden. They'll probably drop that. And that's fine, too. I think it's silly that they're bringing up this against anybody, especially Trump. I don't think you're going to get absolute chaos. What we do not want to see is a national divorce or a breakdown. Now, in a time when you have heightened violence against Donald Trump, it is extremely inappropriate for Jamie Raskin to be saying these things. Now, understand that I know he said it 5 months ago. We should take what he said very seriously and weigh that against, is this type of talk a contributing factor in why someone would try to take the life of Donald Trump? And then, again, the reason why I bring this up is the corporate press doesn't care. The far left can burn, loot, and murder. And the media just says peaceful protesters, not an issue. You take a look at what's going on in the UK right now. You've got the Keir Starmer, the prime minister. You got the video from during George Floyd where it's like, we are all so upset about what happened to George Floyd. And then now you've got a stabbing of 3 young girls and people are rioting. And he's like, we will have a standing army hunt you down. That's why we may be headed for national divorce or otherwise. But the game they play is the smear merchants. This is what they play. They say that you're calling for civil war by simply warning we may be on that track. So here's my fear. We were talking about this. Nick Freitas was on last night. That dude's amazing, by the way. Awesome show. We were talking about what could possibly happen. Someone asked, in the event there is some kind of civil war, what happens to our bases overseas? Interesting point. I'll tell you what I think happens. I think they get absorbed by the countries they're in. Now, a lot of people will say, absurd, it'll never happen. U.S. troops wouldn't align with South Korea or Germany or wherever they are. Yeah, they will. And I'll give you the scenario. So imagine this. Donald Trump wins. He wins in Congress. He wins, the Republicans win Congress. They narrowly win the Senate, and Trump wins the presidency. You've got a trifecta. Congress, the executive branch, and the Supreme Court are now conservative. Democrat states start saying, no way. You're illegitimate under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, like Jamie Raskin said. Democrats in Congress obstruct and block the certification process, as they often do. Fail. They go to their states. Their governors say this. We tried to stop Trump, who's in violation of the Constitution. The Supreme Court is illegitimate. They're propping him up and ignoring plainly what the Constitution says under Amendment 14, Section 3. So we will defy his rulings, his executive orders, his rules. We will defy Congress. Trump begins to make deportations, but California says no. Trump then invokes the Insurrection Act to enforce the law. Take a look at what's going on with Texas. Biden sends CBP. Texas State Guard comes out and blocks them. Imagine something like that happening where Trump says, you will not block federal law enforcement. We're here to enforce federal law. There are cartels, there's smugglers, there's murderers, there's child traffickers, and California says no. Imagine that breakdown starts to happen. I don't think there's a strong possibility of it, honestly. But in the event that it does, what happens to our bases overseas? If there ever comes a point where blue states basically cut off taxes to the federal government, Democrats do a tax protest and stop paying because, or Republicans too, and the country does fall into some kind of conflict, there is this potentiality. Should an actual civil war happen, and it's not going to be state versus state, it's going to be urban versus rural like actual civil wars usually are, not like the American Civil War in 1861. What happens to South Korean military base? If these troops that are there, and they have families living there on base housing, and one day their paychecks stop, the chain of command is in disarray, they don't know who's in charge, Trump's the president, but the left is not paying, they're defying, and the country is in conflict. South Korea is facing an existential crisis. China will move in with North Korea to try and reclaim the entirety of the peninsula. So South Korea tells the military bases, we need supplies and we need you. These countries, should the U.S. actually fall into a civil war with confusion and no one knows who's in charge, our foreign military bases still need funding, and where's it going to come from? So I think there's a strong possibility, say a base in Germany, the German government says, we will subsidize you to keep you here and start paying 100% of the cost to keep U.S. troops there. Troops are probably still aligned with the U.S. government or whatever, but there's no real communication. So it will be mostly under the command and cooperation with the local government where they are. Long story short. But again, I don't think it's very probable. I don't know. I do know that this Joe Rogan clip is actually hilarious. He's like, he's like, we're just about to get into World War III. And he's like, yikes, we got over COVID. It's time for World War III. And that's where I think we're going. I think with Donald Trump, the deep state will go nuclear. I think with Kamala Harris, the deep state will go nuclear in the other direction. Should Trump win, I see blue states cranking it up to 11. And the actual potential for civil war, should there be a potential for it, is only with a Trump victory. Depends on what Trump will do. I'll put it this way. Look what happens when Trump wins in 2016. They accuse him of being a traitor to his country and try to destroy his life and actually impeach and arrest him. Look what happens when Joe Biden wins. Republicans complain on the internet. If Kamala Harris wins with Walz, you will likely see an escalation of war and conflict around the world. World War III, going nuclear, as it were. If Donald Trump wins, they'll be going nuclear, but at home. Either way, there is a powder keg and a potentiality for civil war and World War III. Not so likely. I think the likely scenario is Donald Trump wins, and I'm not saying great likelihood. Right now, I think we have a marginal percentage above chance that Trump wins, enacts some reforms. Some people get arrested. There's bickering from Democrats. They have their committees or whatever. Donald Trump gives us a marginally okay presidency. That's really it. I think that's the most likely scenario. There is still the possibility that Kamala Harris wins because Democrats are a cult. Sorry, but it's just reality. They're willing to vote for a person and give money to a person with no campaign positions at all. Now that's a cult. You want to talk about Trump v. DeSantis, and we'll talk about who is better fit for the job, decorum, personality, age, policy, accomplishments. They're plans. That makes sense. Vivek Ramaswamy, I understand the arguments. Then you look at Kamala Harris, she got nothing. Nothing. And people are dumping money on her. Or it's all rigged, and it's all fake. We'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. The next segment, of course, will be Unfunny Joe Rogan. Unfunny? Joe Rogan's like one of the funniest comedians on the planet. So we'll talk about that from his new special, Burn the Boats. And stick around for those that are watching live. We will go to Superchats. But everyone else, follow me on X at Timcast. Follow me on Instagram as well at Timcast. And we will see you all at 4 in the next segment. But of course, for everybody else, we're going to read your super chats for a few minutes before we jump into this next segment. How y'all doing? I got to say, it's been a interesting ride doing the new morning live stream shows. One net negative, I suppose, is that usually by recording from between 9 and 1 or 9 and 2, there's bigger, like I'm more likely to catch breaking news. Whereas, this Joe Rogan story is actually a day or two old. I wanted to touch on it, but yesterday was just too nuts. There was so much news yesterday, so I want to get it today. But the morning streams have been picking up. Right now, I think we have our biggest morning stream. We hit over 32,000 concurrent views, now rivaling that of Timcast IRL. Timcast IRL did 50,000 last night, but this may be the two shows that I do every day, which is a full recording time of 5 hours of recording per day, may be the biggest live audiences consistently on YouTube in the news category for sure. But Timcast IRL typically averages the highest live audience on YouTube every night. Not always. Sometimes we get beat, but for a consistent show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., we're succeeding very well in spite of YouTube. So become a member at timcast.com. YouTube seems to be doing everything to hold us back. It is what it is. Let's grab your super chats. Super Mercer Bro says, do more research on Logan Paul. CoffeeZilla exposed him for Crypto Zoo, in where he stole millions from supporters and hasn't produced any product after getting sued, and Chef Ramsay hates Prime. Okay, well, fair point. I don't know a lot about the guy, so yeah, a lot of people don't like Logan Paul. Okay. He ripped off hardworking Americans. Do more research. It's a scammer. Fair point. Agreed. I'm only talking about a couple of videos where I saw where he was like, here's how hard work works. Here's what you should do. Here's how you succeed. And I was like, I like that. I like that. But fair point if that's the case. All right. What else have we? TOS Boofer. Okay. Paul brothers have a big audience, but lack morals. Can back this up anecdotally to them growing up selfish, apathetic, greedy, and cruel. They aren't men of character, even if they have the grind set. They have the grind set, but that's a fair point. I will say this, however. My friends, if they're putting out media that is good for this country, I'll take the good with the bad, I suppose. I won't praise them for anything bad that they've done. But if they're pointing out what's going on with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and all these things, that's a net positive, right? Just be wary of them if that's the case. All right, the next super chat. What have we here? The Trooper says, hey, Tim, I think you should get Terrence Popp from Redonkulous Regiment on one of your shows. He'd do great for culture war on RP topics, as well as politically knowledgeable as well. Very cool. Big Dog Blackie says, let me get my shoes. Fight, fight, fight. That's exactly what Trump said. That's crazy, right? All right. Michael says, why can't Trump just aggressively enforce more established federal employment law? because you've got lawsuits in the courts and Trump's not a dictator. This is the funny thing. Trump is not a dictator. He's actually doing things the proper way, and they're trying to stop him, and they're calling him a dictator when he's actually going through the process of like, here's the legal process to do it right. Certainly, as it was Orrin McIntyre who said, Lord, give me the Trump that exists in the mind of the deranged left, because that's what we need. But no, actually will not come. All right. Michael Jenna says, the only law I can see being broken is that a young man is buying the older man a car. Sounds like it breaks natural law to me. Well, here's the other thing, too. Trump could buy the car off of him, and it's not a gift. So he could, the max gift being $3,300. Trump could just be like, how much is the car? I'll pay you for it. So we've had politicians, kind of Timcast IRL, who have actually given us money to buy the thing instead of taking, because they didn't want to consider taking, and I'm not talking about anything serious, like throwing us $20 for like a drink. And I'm like, dude, and they're like, no, we don't accept things. And I'm like, honorable. And they're like, if we're going to get something to drink, we're going to buy it. We're not going to accept anything from anybody. There's a journalist I know, I really respect this. A long time ago, I remember doing an interview. He was offered a drink and he goes, sure. And he pulled out a 20 and he handed a 20 in exchange for some whiskey. And he was like, I don't accept gifts from anyone. And respectable. I wish we had journalists like that, but we don't. We have smear merchants. All right. W. Dragon says, I went through the Bloomberg Morning Consult crosstabs, and in 5,000 pages, there were no actual questions of Kamala v. Trump. Not sure they declared any kind of conclusion from it. Very interesting. Very interesting. Nevada Memes for Liberty says the live morning show is great. It's got major OG talk radio vibes, especially taking questions from listeners between segments. And you know what I'd like to do as well? I think it'd be cool if we did a 10-minute call-in segment, which I would need some production help to actually do. So we could, because you know what we need? It's like, I need Carl Benjamin to call in for 10 minutes and give us a quick rundown on what's going on in the UK with these riots. And I thought that would be pretty cool to do periodically. But, it is what it is. I'm having fun. Live streams are substantially more fun than the pre-recorded segments. So we're rolling with it. All right, we'll grab one more here. Kyle says, just trying to see how I can get Eric Olson, congressional candidate for Wisconsin District 2 on your show. Also, I'm pretty sure Prime is being sued. Interesting. Cassandra McDonald handles booking. I don't know how she typically chooses, who she books. Usually what I do is I check the guest list. I see when we have openings. Sometimes there's like Viva Fry came on recently. He hit me up and I said, just come on down, pop on the chair. We have the extra chair for a reason, and it's for flexibility. So, there's a lot of people that we're friends with, and I say, if you are ever nearby, just come on in and we will put you in that chair. So if you're ever wondering why sometimes we have 5 people on the show, it's because I'll bring them in. And then sometimes, very rarely, I'll reach out to Cassandra and say like, hey, can we get this guy booked for a certain date? But typically, she just makes those choices herself, which is really funny because she's a staunch critic of Israel, but she books many pro-Israel and anti-Israel people. She does a great job of not letting her biases get in the way and trying to find good guests that'll bring things up. It's very admirable and honorable. Yet still, we get people accusing IRL of being shills for Israel and for being anti-Jewish. Absolutely love it. All right, one more. What do we got? Mazdal says, what people from states like New York, Illinois, California call far-left extremists, people from Minnesota call conservative. Jeez. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump to this next story. We got this from Yahoo, BuzzFeed. People are slamming unfunny Joe Rogan after he mocked trans people and made anti-vax jokes in his new Netflix stand-up. Dude, I hate to break it to you guys, but Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world. On Spotify, he is now rivaled by Tucker Carlson. Actually, I'd like to, maybe we should pull this up. Because when Rogan went to Spotify, things did change. Let's pull up the charts here. Apple Podcast United States. Do we want? We don't. I don't want that. I want all of them, huh? Can you do world? All countries. You can't do it. I'm trying to see if I can do the world. I guess you can only do the U.S. Well, let's do this. Before I pull that up and we go over those numbers, let's roll clip. Roll the clip. And he swears. Here you go.
Just good to see everybody having a good time. The country's almost back to normal before World War III. COVID was just so strange. We lost a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive.
That was good. Look at his face. He knows it.
Right? There's a lot of people that I don't fuck with anymore. Before COVID, I would have told you that vaccines are the most important invention in human history. After COVID, I'm like, I don't think we went to the moon. I think Michelle Obama's got a dick. I think Pizzagate is real. I think there's direct energy weapons in Antarctica. I'm just kidding. I don't think Michelle Obama's got a dick, but I believe all that other shit.
Okay. He literally doesn't believe any of that stuff. It's called a comedy bit, and he's intentionally making jokes. They're mad at him for making these jokes. Oh, dude, just help me out. I cannot. All right, let's do this. So here we go with the Apple charts. And you can see the Joe Rogan Experience is number 5. Oh my heavens. Joe, how are you being beaten by Stacey Abrams? Well, I can break this down for you, and we will talk about it. I want to read some of the criticism for you first, but also I'd like to do chartable Spotify, the Spotify charts. So let's pull this up. U.S. What is there? Is there no Spotify? I can't just get all. If I try and click United States of America, it then asks me, oh, it's all, there is no top. Oh, that's weird. There is, because I checked it before. But anyway, Joe Rogan used to be number 1 on Apple, unbeatable. And then when he moved to Spotify, that basically took him off that real estate. And I do think in the long run had a negative impact. With all due respect to Joe, I think his podcast is probably the best. Basically what happens is Rogan is first in and best dressed. He had a great show. He started very early. He was on Ustream back in the day. And so when podcasts start getting big, he's Joe Rogan, baby. People who open up Apple, they see Joe Rogan as the first and most popular podcast because Apple wants people to stay on the platform. They're going to show you what works. This gave Joe Rogan real estate he could not pay for. When he left to Spotify for the Spotify deal, removing himself from Apple, then people started to watch other shows and it mixed things up. Joe Rogan comes back, still extremely popular, but not in the dominant number 1 position, which when you're number 1, you basically get a boost at being number 1. Still, on Spotify, I think he and Tucker Carlson have gone back and forth the number 1 slot. All right. So what are they whinging about this time? Burn the Boats. This is his first stand-up special since 2018. It's also his first to stream live on Netflix after signing a deal with the streamer this summer. In the trailer, Joe teased that it would feature some ride-home arguments, but stressed they're jokes, folks, just jokes. He doesn't literally think Pizzagate is real. That's the joke. The joke is he's saying he's choosing one of the most outrageous things. That being said, Joe certainly does believe the Epstein stuff is real because that's a fact now. Within minutes of the opening, Joe was talking about woke topics like trans representation and pregnant men. He said that while he considers himself open-minded, he believes trans men have been too quickly accepted into American culture. Trans men? Is that what he was saying? I'm open-minded. I just want to know what happened, he said. It's almost like a pervert wizard waved a magic spell on the whole world. Imitating a wizard, he woked. With a wave of his wand, you can walk into a women's locker room with the hard, male parts. And anybody who complains is a Nazi. Abracadabra, it just works. Oh, man. And everyone just accepts this new reality, and it's effing weird. I just think we need standards. You can't just put lipstick on now, and now you can ish in the women's room. I just want to know what's going on. Like, the world got weird. Joe went on to say that he does believe in trans people and fully supports the right as an adult to do whatever you want that makes you happy. But I also believe in crazy people. Oh, boy. Somehow or another, that got left out of the equation. All of a sudden, crazy people just went away like the flu and COVID. He also made jokes about gay men who he said doesn't want to be surrounded. He doesn't want to be surrounded by, and jokes about the strange times of the coronavirus pandemic. Joe said, before COVID, I would have told you that vaccines are the most important invention in human history. After COVID, right, we heard that. We heard that one. Viewers quickly took to X to share their thoughts. All right. And now it's time for an important lesson, my friends. There's a reason why I showed you Joe Rogan being like the number 5 biggest podcast on Apple. This is actually a big deal. because I want to stress this. The number one podcast right now is Hysterical. I don't know what that is. Let's find out. Mysterious illnesses that spread among a group of high school girls in upstate New York. What causes their sudden, often violent symptoms? Is there something in the water? That's interesting. Female viewers love true crime and mystery stuff. I got to tell you this. Culturally, Joe Rogan is the most impactful in terms of podcasting. People just love the show. Tremendous influence. In fact, while he's massive on Spotify, hitting number 1 recently, Tucker Carlson's number 10. But it is fascinating to say this, and I will give you some numbers. I don't know the exact numbers right now on Apple, and it has grown substantially, so it could be very different right now. My understanding is that the top shows generally get around, I think it's like 300,000 views per episode. I'm not entirely sure, but the CPM for ads on these shows is massive. So I don't know where Timcast Morning or Timcast IRL is. I don't think we're anywhere near the top. And don't ask me, I have no idea. We do really, really well on YouTube, but we do not do nearly as well on Apple or Spotify, despite doing actually really well, to be completely honest. Let's see if I can figure out, it's not going to let me look at it anymore. So we're not in the top 100 on Chartable. But let's just pop over and see if it actually shows us. Number 187, 187th biggest podcast on for all podcasts, and I don't think we chart. We're not charting at all on Spotify. I think a lot of people actually ask. They ask us like, where'd the show go? The show's on YouTube, so most people watch on YouTube, and we do pretty well on YouTube. But interestingly, nowhere near the biggest. So you can help spread the word if you want to help us out. But anyway, I digress. The issue that I think we're seeing now is Joe Rogan represents regular people. He represents the middle of the road, and that's what Democrats actually need to win. But the big point for all of this right now, my friends, the issue with getting comments online is a lesson most people must learn. I've got some friends that are like, hey man, I'm getting like weird comments and it's kind of freaking me out. And I'm like, that will happen no matter what. Welcome to the internet. A lot of people, they want to keep their mouth shut. They want to do some kind of content where they think, for the most part, nothing bad happens. No one's ever going to say a mean word to them. Sooner or later, controversy finds you because this is a culture war that is spreading and it's not being abated. So right now, skateboarding is big for us in the culture war. And I think this is really, really funny too, because with these stories in the media, what they're really saying about Joe Rogan is that some random people online got mad. But let me tell you about how the world used to work with the radio and television and all that stuff. If you watch a TV program and got mad about it, what are you going to do? You going to go to the radio station, sit down and do an interview? No. They wouldn't care. So here's what happens. If Joe Rogan did this comedy special 20 years ago, let's say 30 years ago, pre-strong internet, well, the network is going to be like, we paid a lot of money for this and we're selling ads against it. And they're going to go to other commentators and pundits and contributors and say, do not mock our comedy special. Do not criticize it. Otherwise, we will never have you on our shows again. So you take a look at Howard Stern in the 90s. And this is why he's able to do the things that he was able to do. Shockingly offensive. The news would write about it. People watched. It was good for the ad sales. Some people might be mad about it. They might hate watch. Didn't matter. It was good for ad sales. So these networks, they've got hosts, these radio channels, whatever. And they say this: if you criticize us, you will never come on the show again. So other comedians, other commentators and politicians would be like, no, look. If I start attacking them, it may rally some support, but then they cut me off from appearing on that network and I can never generate any kind of support again. How will I get the word out? The newspapers will stop writing about me and then you cease to exist. You are fighting to get access to that microphone at that radio station, that television station, or that newspaper. Now we have the internet. Donald Trump's a great example. All of a sudden, Trump was bypassing the media's control and the media's power. And boy, did they hate that. He didn't need him. It was the first time they've ever experienced being second fiddle. Trump could just tweet whatever he wanted to everybody. And that's where we are now. Well, of course, that also means that some random people are also going to post nonsense. You don't need to pick up every little piece of trash you find. Okay. So, I have friends telling me, oh, I'm worried that, I'll put it this way. I've had pro skateboarders hit me up. Some of the biggest names, the most prominent skateboarders in the industry. And there's a reason why I don't say their names. It's their choice. It's their choice if they want to come out and say they're voting for Donald Trump. And they don't want to because they're scared. They say things like, look, man, I can't afford to get canceled, or I can't deal with, the hate mob. I can't handle it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, it's all fake. It's all fake. So I get this guy hitting me up 5 years ago. Pro skateboarder, one of the biggest names, an older guy, telling me all this stuff about politics, the industry, how he's upset. And I said, say that publicly. And he's like, I can't. I'll lose my job. I'll lose my money. People will say mean things to me. And I'm like, bro, it's not real life. So I get asked by some of these guys. They're like, Tim, you probably get people like yelling at you all the time, right? Like, are you worried when you go out? And I'm like, no. I mean, like, certainly if I order food at a restaurant, I have some concerns, but usually I tip so well, nobody really cares. When we got to eat, we actually have, like, we know who the servers are. They intentionally request us. I tip very massively, like 100 to 200% or more, depending on how big the party is. So I'm not really worried about it. Like, case in point, this skate park stuff that's going on. For those that are unfamiliar, there's like woke, ultra lefty skateboarders who are just so angry. They're posting all this nonsense online. The Washington Post even reached out to me trying to get a comment, or they're probably not going to run the story. There's no story to run. Well, the reality is Martinsburg, West Virginia is Trump. It's Trump country. It's MAGA country, mega country. And most of the locals are really excited that we're building and investing, setting up a skate shop, and they're cheering for it. And then the tiny element of woke people are going online and causing a big stink, getting the weird lefty pundits to write about it. And they think it affects me in any way. It has changed nothing. In fact, let me tell you the truth. It's greatly benefited us. So to wrap this all together, and then to get a little personal, I suppose, when Joe Rogan does his show and it generates controversy and puts Joe's name in the headlines, you're only helping Joe Rogan. Joe knows who his audience is. He knows who's going to watch his show. If Joe Rogan wanted to court leftist viewers, he'd never say these things on his show. But Joe knows regular people, most people, like these jokes. By saying them, the media reports on them, and then people who hear about these jokes for the first time go, that's funny. I'm going to go watch Joe Rogan's comedy special. Free advertising. So right now, let me explain this to all of you guys as a sign of hope, a message to you all, but also wrapping in that a more personal element of the story. When people attack you, ask yourself, do they represent your values, and do you want them to? So let's talk about the skateboard industry. As I'm talking about what Joe Rogan's going through, do you think Joe Rogan is hoping that far leftists watch his podcast? He's calling them out. He's insulting them. He wants everyone else to watch his podcast. So I get these haters in skating who have become obsessed with me because we're investing heavily in skateboarding. Now, some of my friends, in the periphery of the industry are like, aren't you worried? They're going to comment. They're going to comment. I'm like, my dude, if they scream and whinge about me all day, night, I tell you what really happens. The people I actually care to get involved with in business don't like them. The more they talk about me, the more they put my name in their mouths. And it's quite easy to get them to do it, by the way. The more I get hit up by top industry people who hate the wokeness, who hate the left, and those are the people I actually want to hear from. So what ends up happening? You've got this guy, he's making YouTube videos. He gets a bunch of people all riled up. The forums are just obsessed with me. All these posts are making fun of me. They're attacking me. And I could not ask for more. I'll give my position. I'll be honest about it. I'll give my talking points. And then you get the online hate. And what happens? Well, I got to tell you, a guy who is of great merit, who has a family, who runs a business in any industry, is not interested in going online and wasting his time insulting people all day. It's like it was Huberman recently on the Nine Club podcast, a skateboarding podcast, where he was saying like people online who are super toxic, like there's something mentally wrong with them. It's true. Think about these two people. You got a dad. Let's say he skates, he plays music, he's a comedian. Do you think he's going to go online and sit there just insulting people all day? No. Now, what if he starts getting inundated with comments insulting him? He's going to be like, I don't like these people. Why? He wants to make money for his family. He wants his business to succeed. He is the guy I am trying to reach. These are the people who build empires. These are the people who build castles, not the whinging leftists. So when the angry whinging message boards continually talk smack and the YouTubers continually insult, well, I don't want their audience. Their audience are degenerate filth. Like, I'm talking about like criminals and haters and people who are just trying to cause damage, commit crimes, and honestly violate community guidelines. We don't want that. That's bad. But guess what? Some people who watch or who hear these things are the good, hardworking people. So I tell you the results. I end up getting hit up by top people in industry, and we've got some plans we're working on. We've gotten pledges from local businesses to build skate parks, thanks to the haters on YouTube. They have helped me out tremendously by being the incessant whingers of low merit. They show themselves for who they really are, how they hate everything around them. So I send this back to Joe Rogan. This is what we are all dealing with. When Joe makes the jokes and the haters whinge, all that happens is the people Joe actually cares about will end up reaching out. He's going to get more guests on his show that he actually wants to hear from. It's only going to improve his standing and his goals. There may have been some fear in the past over cancellation because no one was willing to stand up to the toxicity. But I think that's actually dying away now as people realize the internet is full of hateful, angry losers who never made it, and all they can do is complain. But please, continue to do so. Say my name over and over and over again. Make post after post after post where the only thing you can think about is me. Give me your energy. And I appreciate it. And we're going to do some awesome stuff. In the meantime, we'll wrap this up and we will jump over to the next segment after this one. Oh boy. Crazy story. The mayor of Jersey City fired Valentina Gomez's brother. This is a Republican candidate's brother being fired illegally, people are saying. He was trying to force a Republican's brother to make a pro-Democrat statement and fired him over it. And now people are saying, you may have broken the law there, Democrat mayor. May have just cost yourself your chance of being the governor. We'll talk about that in the next segment coming up at 6 p.m. Smash the like button. Follow me on X. And in the meantime, for those that are watching live, we will read your super chats. So let's get it. All right. Appleby and Company Inc. says, Tim, start tech decking now. You will beat Rogan and Abrams' podcast. Tech decking? Like this? You're talking about my tech? Dude, I can tech deck like nobody's business. I don't want to hit the keyboard, though. Oh, yeah, I'm super good at fingerboarding. They call it fingerboarding or whatever. Tech deck. Yeah. It was funny because we had Viva Fry came, and you can't really see it because I'm not going to like Ollie over here. But he saw me do an Ollie with, my fingers on the fingerboard. He's like, wait, how did you do that? And I was like, it's called fingerboarding, and I can do all of the tricks, and I'm really good. And he called his son in to watch. And then his son was like, how did you get it to go straight up like that? And I'm like, I don't know. Look, I'm sitting here at this desk prepping for the show, and I just got a tech deck, and I'm like, you can't see it. I wonder if I do this, will it still work? Oh, I broke it. We can't do that. Oh, there we go. I got it. All right. Yeah. Ollie with the tech deck, There was a kickflip. Congratulations. Thank you for mentioning the tech decking. Hit that kickflip first try. How about that? Let's see if I can get a laser flip. Yep, got a laser flip second try. Anyway. All right. Where are we at? Rod's All Thing China says, Coffazillistans are the only people who think Logan Paul defrauded people. A Crippy Zoo game isn't a game like Pokemon. It's speculating, investing, gambling on crypto. If you lose money, you lost your bet. So anyway, for the people who are posting F in the chat because it switched to the intro, I've got buttons and I'm like, I didn't know which button switched to the wide shot. I'm like, I'm probably going to break it. And then I did. But I fixed it. Hey, I fixed it right away. All right. Bailey says Kamala might be a throwaway, but what if the VP pick is a Hail Mary? He secures the base. She pretends to be moderate and the press covers it all up. I don't know. Maybe. Nick Condon says, how does it make sense when Biden says he's stepping down for the next generation, but the two people are 60 years old? Yo, because he's a silent generation and the next generation is the boomers. Incredible, huh? Absolutely incredible. Japanese demon lord Aber Lucifer says X is suing the GARM advertisers. It was just announced. Wow. Let me check my messages and see if we've got excellent. We got some good news in the works. We are making moves over here. I got a good text message just now. I'm very happy. Skateboarding. Get ready. We're working with some pro skateboarders. We're building sponsorships, and we're hoping to expand the industry to increase the revenue of the skateboard professionals so they can make a living and we can revitalize the community and the industry. And I got news for the woke skateboarders. You woke, you losers. It's not going to work out too well for you. I don't care if you are a woke skateboarder. I'll be completely honest. I don't care. I care if you're an exclusionary skateboarder. So if we had a guy skate here on our opening jam who was very lefty, super lefty, skates in DC all the time, prominent, well-known guy. And he said to me, he's like, dude, I don't care about any of that. He's like, we disagree politically. We're just skating. You want to skate with me? You're cool. I'll skate with you. We skate together. That's what we got to do. And I was like, bro, that's exactly what it's all about. You can, and he posts anti-Trump stuff all day. But when he came to skate, he said, nah, that's fine. He's like, if we're skateboarding, we're having fun, we're friends. And I'm like, absolutely, rock on. That sounds great. And we'll keep the politics of the political arena. My view for skateboarding is that right now, the industry has been taken over by heavy, far leftist politics. And that's bad. What do we need? Neutralization. So that, we've not done anything political with the boonies. We're not going to do anything political with the boonies. It's always just going to be skateboarding. And, and scooting and other stuff like that. We're going to get everybody involved and we're going to have fun. The problem with skateboarding is that as the industry died, the far left did what they do and they came in, they started setting up leftist companies, making advertisements that were not about merit, but about being trans and things like this. And we're like, no, get your politics out of skateboarding. Skateboarding should be art, community, culture, not your political opinions, which is what they're doing. Which is funny because this guy who is like a small YouTuber, but his whole thing is just ragging on people and everyone hates him. He is now getting embroiled in politics because of trying to, come at me, which will be a major, major epic problem for him. But I wish him the best. I hope he does go full politics. I do think it's absolutely hilarious how these people just love to be obsessed. All they can do is talk about me. I'm trending on X all the time. And it's just like, go ahead, do your thing, man. I don't care. Talk about what you want to talk about. All right. Scott Leo says, any words on the explosions over in Israel that Sky News is now reporting? Let's pull that up, man. Explosions in Israel. That's crazy. Maybe we've got some breaking news here. And, all I'm seeing is Hezbollah retaliation attack, it looks like. Yep. Explosion on the road in northern Israel. I got to be honest, guys. It's news for sure, but the Hezbollah attacks all the time. It's like Israel is at war with everyone around them. All right. Sty on the eye says, Tim, would you ever make an early 2000s styled comedy about skateboarding? I think you could come up with some fun ideas. No. Probably not. I think we could do a pretty good job making movies and short films. I think if you ever saw the original Cast Brew commercial where Ian is running through the hall and being chased by by Roberto, the rooster, we certainly have the capabilities to do some good editing and style and all that stuff, but we're not there. I think we've done some funny bits, a lot of hit or miss. I will say, I think I'm going to take full credit. The Cast Castle comedy bits that I directed always did really well. And then as soon as I was not involved, it started to do not as well. I don't know. Not all of them. I'm not going to take credit for everything, but there's a handful that I did that ended up doing really well. And I don't know, is what it is. So I'm trying to be more involved with Boonies editing and planning. But Sam, our new showrunner, editor, and producer he's a genius. He's like a hardworking guy. He's great at skateboarding. He's super awesome. And we're really excited that he's here because he's basically hitting it out of the ballpark right off the bat. If you go to Boonies HQ on Instagram, follow us there. It's epic. I'm going to pull it up right now because since he's taken over, the video views have just started skyrocketing. It's just really fantastic stuff. We've got like 30,000 views, 500,000 views, 15,000 views. Man, absolutely amazing stuff. So we're really excited for this. And we've got more stuff in the works to build culture. The general idea with Boonies is, in the 2000s era of skateboarding, it was very jackassy, CKY, hitting people in the balls. Yeah, that's what skateboarding used to be. We don't want to be that. We want to be more like fun and silly without getting to the point where you're intentionally hitting someone in the balls. So, for example, we have a video on Boonies HQ Instagram where Wesley, one of our filmers and editors, gets hit in the balls, but it was an accident and we apologize. Special Mike is like, dude, I am so sorry, but it's hilarious. No one's intentionally trying to hit people and do that stuff. But so we want it to be family friendly and not overly aggressive while still being silly. But let's do this, my friends. We're going to jump to this next story. There is some breaking news stuff too, so I want to make sure I'm just checking my messages so that I don't miss anything, because things are getting pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. What have we here? Yeah. We'll jump to this next story. This is absolutely wild. So we got this from Jersey City Times. Fulop fires aide who donated to sister's anti-LGBTQ campaign for Missouri Secretary of State. Okay. You know Valentina Gomez? Actually, I think we have her tweet right here. And I don't know that I can play her video because she has posted things that have overtly violated social media rules. But because she's running for political office, they're allowed to remain. So we have this from The Advocate. Missouri Republican anti-gay slur-filled post remains on Instagram despite violating Meta's policies. That being said, I don't know that I can play her videos because, I can do this. I can pre-screen them, I guess. But so she's talking about the mayor who's trying to be the next governor of New Jersey, threatening her brother with firing, and she's got him on video, making him choose between his family or his job. She says, you should have chosen your words more carefully because you do not sound like a Democratic mayor. You sound like a dictator. She says you can't be governor. It's not the way to treat your employees or any human. She is mentioning, she plays a recording. Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to play the recording for you. It is what it is.
And John, if you think that is boldness, I am going to fire you. I'm going to look in 5 minutes. If it's not clear where you stand, then you're not with me. You're with her, and you can't work with me. Period. Okay? Like, that's it.
No,
end of story. 5 minutes.
Today, the mayor.
So that's that. Okay, so that's the full video. Nothing too crazy in it. This is absolutely wild. Take a look at this. Stephen Fulop. This is the mayor of Jersey. Let's read the news story here. And without bearing the lead, just to give you the quick context, this is a Democrat mayor who illegally tried to coerce a staffer to make a political statement. Otherwise, he would be fired. And my understanding is, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's illegal. They say capping a day of fast-moving events, Mayor Stephen Fulop has fired an aide who donated to his sister's anti-LGBTQ campaign for Missouri State Secretary of State. I don't think it's fair to call her campaign anti-LGBTQ. I think it's fair to say she made anti-LGBTQ statements. In a tweet on X tonight directed at his sister, Valentina Gomez, Fulop said, as of tomorrow, he no longer works there because he doesn't reflect the values of the city. The contributions of Valentina Gomez's campaign by her brother, Jonathan Gomez, and aide to Fulop were first reported by the Jersey City Times on Friday. Fulop's tweet tonight appears to have been in response to Valentina Gomez, who in her own tweet earlier threatened the mayor with a huge lawsuit for his treatment of her brother. In a video, she plays back a portion of a recorded phone call between the mayor and Jonathan, in which the mayor appears to demand a clear disavowal of Valentina Gomez's views. John, if you think this is boldness, I'm going to fire you. I'm going to look in 5 minutes. If it's not clear where you stand, then you're not with me, you're with her, and you can't work with me, period. An aide to Fulop, until tonight, Gomez had been appointed to the mayor's LGBTQ plus task force and was a member of the LGBTQ plus task force outreach and public relations committee. Pressure on the administration built early in the day, with Hudson Pride Center announcing that its members would be resigning from the task force. Only a few hours later, Fulop told Hudson County View via X that Gomez would be stepping down. According to Fulop's press secretary, the views expressed 1,000 miles away in Missouri are shameful and have no place here in Jersey City. In a written statement on Friday, Jonathan Gomez told the Jersey City Times, "Well, I support all of my family members, including my sister Valentina, in their personal endeavors. We often have different views. My life story and trajectory reflect my commitment to inclusivity, respect, and equality for all individuals. I do not share the views expressed in her statement." Today, Gomez expanded on that statement in a statement released to the Jersey Journal, saying, "Let me be clear. I do not support any hateful remarks directed toward the LGBTQ plus community or any individual. Political differences should not destroy families." Gomez's explanations appear to have been insufficient for Mayor Fulop, who has prided himself on his support for the LGBT plus community and is running for governor. Late this afternoon, Executive Craig Guy called for Gomez to be fired. Valentina Gomez's virulently homophobic views had come to light on Thursday after she posted a video to X that garnered over 18 million views excoriating transgender athletes. In the video, she says, quote, "These Fs should get their own F category because before, if a man hit a woman, it used to land him in jail. Now it gets you a gold medal at the Olympics. And these are the worst Olympics in history. They've made a mockery out of Christianity and women. And let me remind you, there's no such thing as a chick with a D." Gomez was apparently referring to the controversial boxing match in which one of the fighters failed gender eligibility tests. That's right, plural, 2 of them. According to the campaign finance records, her brother Jonathan made 4 contributions to her campaign, totaling $1,250. Earlier today, Valentina Gomez doubled down in the controversy with an incendiary tirade directed at Ward F. Councilman Frank Gilmore, who called for Gomez's removal from the task force. Gomez accused him of killing countless innocent human beings as a drug dealer. Gilmore was incarcerated as a teenager following a drug conviction. Jeez, this is crazy. They go on to say that Valentina's videos often punctuated with F-bombs and images with her firearms target more than trans people. In one video, once elected, she says she will get right to work saving children from groomers and pedos. According to the ADL, far-right figures use the term grooming and groomer to falsely imply or explicitly claim that LGBTQ plus people are pedos. Wrong, and that's a lie. It's pretty crazy how you can have gays against groomers, an organization that is comprised of LGBTQ plus people who are concerned about pedos masquerading as just simple LGBTQ activists. And then when you try to call out literal pedos, they're like, "You're talking about gay people." And it's like, no, I'm not. Who are you talking about? That's the lie they play. In a post on July 10th, Gomez says we must start mass deportations before they become U.S. citizens. These criminals are already here, raping and killing American women. Well, we have this from Stephen Fulop. I followed him because he's probably going to lock his account. He says, "Valentina, first, your brother was an at-will employee for the city. As of tomorrow, he no longer works there because he doesn't reflect the values of the city. Second, you can see how strongly I feel about LGBTQ community, and I'll share the text messages we exchange so people know I'll fight for them when people are watching, and the same when they can't see what I'm doing." He may have actually just published evidence of criminal activity and maybe subject to serious civil penalties, as well as, it's probably going to be civil. I don't know that it'll be criminal because I'll just read it. So he wrote to Jonathan, an employee, "The only thing that matters was one sentence, quote, to be clear, I do not support my sister's hateful speech or campaign. I love her as my sister, but I don't condone her actions that have become progressively more vile over the last few months." That was a quote sent by the mayor to Gomez's brother he wanted him to say. He says anything less isn't acceptable and doesn't reflect the values of our office. To be clear, there's nothing bold about our actions or your actions supporting her. And there is nothing that being a Columbia or Olympian that is relevant with regards to not being clear here. There are plenty of vile people, sure, that have been part of both Olympics and Columbia. And then let me jump here. Where does it say he stand on this? It's hard because the texts are out of order. Okay, he says, "You need to put out something more clear that says, 1, you are resigning from the task force. 2, you find her comments disgusting and condemn them publicly. 3, your family is one thing, but this is between us. You absolutely cannot campaign for her or support her publicly, as those values are counter to who we stand for. You should make it clear on the thread with Gilmore and your social media. You need to be clear where you stand on this." Jonathan responded, "Hi, Mayor. Thank you for your guidance. This really sucks. I'll draft up something and send it your way for your review." And he goes, "Don't send it my way. It needs to be from you and clear on what you believe and where you stand." He says, "Yes, sir. Would it be okay if you reviewed it first?" And he says, "No. We will look to what you say on NLW, on social, I guess it meant now, on social and how you respond and how strong. And I can't be more clear that I am taking you at your word that you aren't there to help her, but pictures or any evidence of campaigning will result in termination from the city entirely, as those values have no place in Jersey City. I am not involved in her antics or your feelings here, and we will see how you handle it on your values and where you share, and we will decide next steps from there." Many people quickly pointed out that it's illegal. Someone pointed out, "You got to charge your phone." He says, "I know." Mike Cernovich says, "You tried to force an employee to issue a personal statement unrelated to his job and then fired him in retaliation. You can't do this even to an at-will employee." And he says, "You're really abusive to your subordinate in the text you posted and what you said in the phone call. This is my takeaway aside from the horrible politics involved." Ashley St. Clair says, "You cannot force an employee to issue a statement against a family member, let alone his sister, unrelated to his job. This is insane. Hope he sues." There is one person who did link to the law. I think I have it here. Andrew Follett said, "This is wrongful termination, idiot, and you just confessed." He then links to this website that says, "Section 1983 of federal law, known as the Civil Rights Act of 1871, and the New Jersey Civil Rights Act, NJSA 10-6-1, make it clear that firing government workers who are not policymakers because of their political affiliation is unlawful retaliation. Specifically, it constitutes illegal political retaliation under Section 1983 for any person acting under color of law to deprive any other person of their constitutionally protected rights or privileges." So, holy crap. This dude just outright admitted publicly that he broke the law. And many people are saying this is going to result in him seeing a 6-figure lawsuit. He will lose this one. And wow, that's pretty surprising. Now, it's interesting here. Jersey City Times writes, "Hudson Pride Center resigns from Jersey City LGBTQ task force over aid to Philip." So here's the story. The mayor, he's political, of course. He's seeing people threaten to quit, resign, or whatever. Some did, apparently. So in his mind, he goes, "I got to tell this guy to stop because we're losing team members." Wrong move. I'll tell you how I handle these things. And it's not really an issue here because, we're like an eclectic bunch and we're free speech. We've got people who work at Timcast who are pro-Zionist, literal Zionist, 100%. I think 2 people, maybe just 1. We've got people here who are absolutely anti-Zionist. And not once has either of them ever come to me and said, "Make the other person stop talking." Not once has either of them ever came to me and said, "I will quit unless that other person stops talking about these things." Because we are sane, rational, normal people. And I pride Timcast on that. Now, in the event someone came to me and said, "I think this person is crossing the line and they shouldn't be saying these things and it should be dealt with," my response would be something like, "Go tell them that. It's not up to me. I am not here to tell the people who work here what their political opinions are allowed to be. If in their official duties as an employee, they attacked an advertiser, a sponsor, creating a conflict of interest, or tried to damage the show, I'd fire them. If the post they were making was that Timcast sucks and you shouldn't be a member, I'd say you're fired because you're destroying us. But if they do their job, they do it well, and then they have political opinions on social media, that has nothing to do with this company. And then there's a question, however. Let's say someone went online and said shockingly vile things like pro-groomer, whatever, and they worked at Timcast. Well, then we actually may have a conundrum here, where ultimately my first point to them would be like, why would you want to be here if you are holding views that are counter to our moral philosophies and our stated company missions? And there's an interesting question that I think is absolutely fair. A lot of people got mad when Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens went at it, and then the Daily Wire, they ended the contract with Candace, and they were like, why can't Candace criticize Israel or whatever? Well, I tell you this, by all means, it's fair to say that you think the Daily Wire is a pro-Israel company and doesn't want anyone working there who's going to say anything anti-Israel. There is a challenge, though. I think everyone would accept that we have different moral lines and that you listening at home, if you ran a company and you hired a guy to like, I don't know, flip burgers. And then he started posting on social media that he was like pro groomer or something. You'd probably want to fire him too. And you'd say it's detrimental to our business. But I think there's a reasonable approach to it. And there's a challenge to it. So my view is if you do try to engage in this behavior where you're like, you are saying things that are so shockingly egregious, it's actually hurting the company. Well, then you've got choices to make. You do. I have a very, very wide threshold for tolerance of speech, but it's not absolute. If someone came here and was pro-groomer, I'd probably be like, this is not the place for you, and I don't think you should be here. We are a political commentary company, specifically in the business of talking politics and commentary. So when you speak online, you are actually directly involved in this process. If we made cheeseburgers and they were saying things politically, like, I don't know, do we make cheeseburgers? I don't know anything about politics. So for us, we do have that line. However, when it comes to general politics, foreign war, like Elad Eliyahu's a neocon, but the guy's great. You know what I mean? Like, we get into arguments. I get real mad at his opinions. We've gotten into it on the show. I think it's a good show. I despise his pro-war intervention, unipolar America views, but he does a great job reporting, and I appreciate his perspective because we can have that challenge. So I don't see a reason to get rid of the guy. Even though I'm like, I really don't like his views. Most of our audience doesn't like his views. They're like, he's a neocon, he's a neocon. He calls himself a Bolton bro. But the funny thing is, the Timcast audience, the people who watch, because of the views we hold and we're willing, this is the audience who has come to appreciate the show. The people who don't like Ian, stop watching. The people who don't like Hannah Claire, stop watching. The people who don't like Phil, stop watching. And the people who are willing to tolerate individuals and views they don't like, keep watching. So it is a challenge. I will say that. But ultimately what it comes down to is this guy made a huge mistake. He was wrong to do this. What I would say is to this guy, I would ask him, if I was the mayor of a city, I'd say, actually, I'll put it this way. Let's say a Timcast employee is a far leftist, high profile, saying crazy, nasty things about Donald Trump and stuff like that. I'd go to the person. Actually, it'd be simple. I'd be like, I don't know, you're not your sister. And it's not an issue at all. Let's say the individual is donating to his sister who is saying these things. I'd still just be like, you're not your sister. So it's an easy question for me. Let's say people complained and they were like, look what he's supporting. Look what he's doing. This reflects badly. I'll quit. My response would be, then quit. Look, man, if you don't want to be here, you shouldn't be here. And if someone's got a family member that's running for office and they support him, I don't know what to tell you. I can't police people's lives and their political opinions. We are in the political commentary business, so there's more of an overlap in with what they say and how our business operates. If they were doing things publicly, like going out and saying things to hurt us with their sister, then I'd be like, that's their direct actions. I can consider that. But this is a story about a dude who, by simple affiliation, they threatened to get rid of because whiny babies were going to quit over it. Wrong move. Wrong move. You know, ultimately, I'll just end by saying nothing's absolute. There's no easy answers here, but we all have our moral lines. And I do believe there's a fair threshold where if someone who worked at Timcast was saying things that were like detrimental or shockingly offensive, I'd have no problem with asking them to leave. But I would never retaliate against someone or force them to make a statement. I would just first be like, hey, like, these things are bad for us. If you like the company and like what we do, you should probably not do that. If you really do want to do it, I'm not going to tell you to stop, but sooner or later, it's going to be cause a serious problem where people are not going to want to work with you. And if they can't work with you, then I don't know how you can work here. So I try to be reasonable, but anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Next segment is tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Go check out the show. It'll be a lot of fun. Big news today, of course, and become a member at timcast.com to support our work. With your support, we will push back on the fake news and the smear merchants. You can follow me on X at Timcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Timcast. For those that are watching live, I will now jump to some super chats before we sign out. And for everyone else, we'll see you all tonight at 8 p.m. We'll grab just a couple here as we got a few more minutes. And let's see what we got. Hiesel says, Gleaming the Cube, best skateboard movie. It was good because skateboarding was an aside. It was a movie about, well, like the guy's brother getting murdered or something. But I think that's the way media should be. So for us at the Boonies, the idea is not to make this overt skate show where it's like, imagine someone shared a video with you and it was, let's like varial heel flip crook, big spin out. You'd be like, I don't know what that is. Why am I going to watch that? But imagine it was skateboarder jumps the ring of fire. Now what we're doing is we're creating skateboard culture. We're building more awareness for skateboarding, getting kids more interested in what skateboarding is, but the average person can enjoy watching it. Jumping through a ring of fire, that's an easy thing for people to understand. All right. Robert Hamilton says, you should get Scott Jensen on your show. He ran against Tim Walz for governor. His story is crazy. That sounds like a good idea, actually. Mega Bobson says, don't know if you answered my super chat, but can Trump reverse amnesty? Sorry, I have to leave for a sec. He tried, and they said no, I think. Even though it's an executive order, he should be able to, depending on the amnesty. If someone becomes a citizen, then you can't just take citizenship away. Casually Trevor, we'll read one more, says, you ever notice behind every Democrat diversity hire, there's an old white man? Obama, Joe, Kamala, Walz. They've actually explained this. They said it's because they want to make sure they can capture all audiences, and they're concerned older Democrats wouldn't vote for a black person. I'm not kidding. So we'll wrap it up there, my friends. We'll wrap it up there. You can smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, follow me on X and Instagram. I know I already said it for every other segment. So we'll wrap it up there, my friends. I'll say it again. Thank you all so much for hanging out. This morning show, they seem to be getting bigger and better every time. We had 32,000 peak concurrent views. Not the most for a morning show live stream, but in this current iteration that we've just started the show, it's the biggest we've gotten. And now rivaling that of Timcast. Timcast IRL, which last night had about 50K concurrents, so 32 is pretty good numbers. I really do appreciate all of you tuning in. It is an honor and a privilege for you to come and join me every morning, and I really do appreciate it. Become a member at timcast.com if you want to see things continue, and we'll be back tonight at 8 p.m. Thank you all for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.